We are going to talk about reviving dead leads, taking your tired old database and shaking the trees a little bit and getting some conversations going, because the more conversations you have, the more client opportunities you will have, whether it's a conversation by email or text or phone or direct messenger or in person. Some of what you do in this practice, maybe you end up seeing somebody out and about and that leads to a conversation or they recognize you, etc. So actually, here's what inspired this. This is one of my favorite topics, quite honestly. I have been sharing text and email scripts and scripts that you can take with text and email and use on direct message or even on phone calls, etc. And I've been sharing them for years and years. James Brown, who is a wonderful EXP agent out in the Denver, Colorado area and part of my organization, in talking with him recently, we've had a couple of conversations around his existing kvCORE database and squeezing whatever juice out of that he possibly can, and a plan to do. And in fact, last week we had a conversation and I said, you know what? I'm going to put together an action plan for you to follow. So I'm actually going to share that. It's still a work in progress, but it's something that all of you could take and implement over the next week, month, quarter, whatever the case may be, to make sure that you maximize your opportunities during selling season, right? It's selling season. And I hope you're busy. We're certainly very busy. And I'm excited to see every day the activity coming to my team here locally. And also when I log in and check out my organizational activity and who's closing deals and making progress. I'm also going to share my stats over the last 30 days as far as how many leads, the cost per lead, how many of them are active, and how many of them was I able to identify as homeowners. I think there will be some interesting and maybe encouraging information in that for you. Now, if you don't have leads or a database, you're not generating them on a regular basis, we do have an easy button for you to take away all of the tech overwhelm and the hassles related with that so that you can focus on what you do best, which is taking those conversations and turning them into client opportunities. Don't do this now, but after this session, go to buildwithjosh.com and watch the free training there for more information about how that works. Do me a huge favor. If you are in the Facebook group watching the live stream, give me a big thumbs up if you're excited to explore this topic of reviving dead leads. And oh, by the way, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but the action plan includes some very specific word by word scripts that you can all rip off and duplicate for your own use as well. So not only going to give you, here's what to do, I'm also going to give you the actual scripts and templates, etc. as well. I would like this one to be interactive, but if you have questions or you missed something or something didn't make sense to you, just let me know and we'll come back and revisit it. And though I'm going to share the action plan, I actually want to start with my numbers over the last 30 days, because if you don't have a database, I want to show you and illustrate for you how quickly you can change that with a little bit of investment and having the right pieces in place to do. So let me make sure I've got the right screen here to share. This is the action plan, but I'm going to start here. And I literally just threw this up, obviously, because it's not anything fancy, but I just threw these numbers on a Google Doc right before coming on here. So over the last 30 days in my local market, my business, we generated 160 leads. Now, it was actually more than that, but that 160 was from 2 campaigns following what you will find at buildwithjosh.com. Okay, so we've generated a few more because we always run an ad or ads for new listings, and we do get the occasional organic or additional. This is just the type of campaigns that you'll see and hear more about at buildwithjosh.com. Okay, so I just wanted to keep it finite to that because that's the thing that all of you can most easily take and run with. The cost for those 160 was $839 directly on ads. The average cost per lead was $5.24. The number of the 160 that are now active in kvCORE, which means they would have had to take some action for the behavioral automation to trigger them over to active. Okay, so that's baked into kvCORE. It's one of the many things I love about it. is there's all of these behavioral automations that are just built into the platform so that you can do some smart research like this. Now, does that mean that all of them are actively in the market and ready to make an offer on a property? No, but what it tells me is they either looked at a property, they replied to one of the automated text messages, or they took some other action in kvCORE, which then caused kvCORE to take them from prospect, okay? And here's how I manage leads. When they come in as a new lead, they're tagged new lead in kvCORE. When I do the dispositioning process that I've been talking about the last couple weeks, which I'll find, I don't know, you know what? I need to add that to this action plan. I'll find and add that. I've teased it a few times. I put it on my socials. I didn't put it on the YouTube channel because it's got data in there that YouTube will flag, right? So I put it on a Loom. If you can't find it or you need it or whatever, but for every lead that comes in, there is work that I do or that you could have a VA do, but I personally do it, to determine, does this person own a home? And then I disposition them based upon, do they own a home or not? What did they opt in for? Because in kvCORE, you have to manually add them to market reports. So I do that work, etc. So when that happens, I move them from new lead to prospect. Okay, so new lead to prospect. And then when they take some action, like I said, they are looking at properties on the site. They're replying or responding to automated text messages or manual text messages, some of which I'll show in the action plan, or some action like that. They get moved to active lead. Okay, so 57 of them, which means the cost for an active lead is just under $15 per lead. I don't know what that's worth, but I figured I'd put it on here. And then of the 160, I was able to identify that 90 of them are current homeowners, which further illustrates a point I was making last week, which I believe the best motivated seller campaign that you can run is a really good buyer campaign. New construction homes available in your area, homes with land available in your area, recently price reduced homes in your area, homes with land up to $600,000 in your area. There are lots of offers and types of campaigns that you can run, niches, etc. But I would definitely, if you're going to do this, pick one where there's a high likelihood that the people wanting the properties that you've put together, that you've curated, also own a home. So the cost per homeowner is under $10, $9.32 per lead. Okay. Why is that important? Richard, thank you. 56%. That's pretty good. Why is that important? When I determine that, I can append more data in my kvCORE. And let's face it, data is one of the most valuable resources that exist in our world today. And it's true in our business and many other businesses. So when I have more data, it means when Eric opts in for my list and I determine that Eric owns a home and he starts engaging and responding, I can then strategically say, hey, just curious, when we do find the right home for you, would you need to sell the property at blank address before we make a move on that? Or is that something you'd be keeping as an investment property? It also means that I can send them each month back to their seller dashboard that I'm doing with iList. Why is that important? Because if I send them that update email and they go and look at their dashboard, there's probably some intent there. There's a reason why they're curious. And I talked about this a few mastermind sessions ago, that basically I have a 3-step process with that. I do it at the beginning of every month, and this is actually in the action plan, I think, that I put together for James. If not, it'll be added. I send them an email that drives them to their dashboard. I send them a bump text that lets them know that I sent them the email to their updated value and offer options. And then I manually email everyone that looks at their dashboard a question to create further conversation so I can determine what was the reason. Are you thinking about refining? Are you thinking about selling in the next 3, 6, 9 months? Were you just curious? Whatever the case may be. So it means I can provide, here's the biggest takeaway, I can provide more relevant information for them. Okay? So not only can I do that, but I also then make sure that they get a market report each month based upon the city or the zip code that they own a home in, because we're all curious about what's going on in our local market. So if I own a home in Enola, PA, and I'm getting a market report for Enola, PA, I'm probably going to check it out. I'm curious. So by doing this work, it makes every one of the leads more valuable. It makes them all more valuable. Okay. Now I'm gonna do a little bit more math before I get to the action plan, just to help you think about this. The best businesses are based upon simple math equations. And as much as we all may want to resist that, it is fact. So if you can boil this business down to a math equation, you drastically increase your likelihood for success. Okay. So very simply put, if I'm terrible at this and I can only turn 1 out of every 100 of these leads into a client, okay, I'm bad. I'm not good at this. I'm an amateur. And I could turn 1 out of 100, which is the average. Actually, I think the average is less than 1%. It's a 0.5%. But if you're using something like kvCORE or Follow Up Boss or Lofty or Sienna, like, you're going to convert 1%, even if you're really bad. Okay. As long as you're doing something with the leads that you generate, you're going to convert 1%. Okay. So let's assume we convert 1%. That means that it will cost me $524 for every client. $524 for a client. And let's assume now, and also math tells us that half of those clients will own a home, right? If more than half of them, I've determined when they come in, own a home, it means half of those, or every 1 out of 2, also currently own a home. And let's say only half of those are going to sell their home when they decide to work with me as a client, okay? Which means, okay, for every $2,000, I'm going to get 5 commission checks. For every $2,000, I'm going to get 5 commission checks. Now, I'm not going to talk about GCI commission, whatever, but what's the average commission in your market? Just take the average price home and be conservative on what you typically get paid. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it just to illustrate because I think it's important. Let's say those 5 transactions on average are $300,000 in volume. I think that's a pretty conservative number. $300,000 on average. And let's say that's 2.5%. Let's say I get paid 2.5% on each of the 5 transactions that are $300,000. I'm doing math live in my brain. It's probably not a good idea, but I think this is a good skill to have. Okay. So if my math is right, it's $7,500 per transaction. What's 7,500 times 5? Someone help me. I could do it. What's that? 3,750? 37,500? Yep. Am I right?
Yep.
Look at that. Look at that. Math live on the internet. $37,500 in GCI. Let's face it, none of us get to keep all of it. None of us. Okay? Already XP. The first $80,000 in GCI every 12 months, we have an 80-20 split. Let's get wild. Let's cut it in half. Or let's cut it to 20,000. That's almost half. That means for every $1 I put into my little machine here, I get how many dollars back? The answer is 10. For every $1 I put in, I get $10 back. So why doesn't everybody do this? We're all humans, and we get distracted, and we get shiny object syndrome, myself included. Because as I'm doing this again, I'm realizing what an idiot I am forever taking my eye off of this simple ball and forgetting that this business is a math equation. And here's the other thing that screws us up. Different times of the year have different levels of activity. So if I had shared these numbers in November, my cost per lead probably would have been a little higher because we would have Black Friday in there and we would have Christmas in there, etc. And not only that, but I wouldn't have as many active people because people are distracted. They're in holiday mode. They're not really looking for real estate, etc. But when you play the long game and understand that real estate is a long sales cycle, and if you just keep plugging away, things will compound over time. It's pretty easy to win with this. Okay. Questions before I move to the action plan or shoot holes in the math or any of that?
I didn't know we were going to do math this morning.
Well, I was trying to do the math for you.
Totally with fans.
Yeah. Lisa, go ahead if that was. No? Okay. All right. So changing gears, switching around here, the actual action plan for reviving dead leads. Okay. This is what I prescribed for James you can take whatever bits and pieces are relevant to you, and you may have to adapt it to whatever you're using for a CRM or whatever the case may be. I want to drop this in the chat because I'm sure folks will be asking. And if you're watching this after the fact, you should find it in the description. And if you don't see it there, just drop a comment. Just comment revive below and I'll get you this document. First and foremost, we need to clean the list. Okay. And I think there's two things that happen with this in my estimation. Is anytime you remove, if you want a nice yard, okay, if you want a nice yard, every so often you got to pull the weeds to make room for the nice green lush grass to fill in. And so it is with our database. We need to prune out the junk to make room for more good. What does that mean? So specifically in kvCORE, this was my recommendation to James. And I recently did this before starting some new campaigns and doubling down on a lot of what you'll find at buildwithjosh.com. Number one, I went and I filtered for all the contacts that I have that have phone, are unsubscribed to text, and have email and are unsubscribed to email. In other words, there are contacts in my database that I can't communicate with. So what's the point of having them there? Right? They're doing no good being in there. Get them out. So we filter for that and we delete all of those. And by the way, there's a tutorial of me doing this loom here. So rather than me showing again, because whenever I show contact data, it tends to increase the likelihood that YouTube or Facebook will flag it, right? Because they don't want, and rightfully, okay? But you go and select, and whatever you're using, there should be some way to do this, okay? And if not, just reach out to their chat or whatever. The next one is has phone, unsubscribed to text, and doesn't have email. Okay, so we have a phone number for this contact, and they're unsubscribed, and we don't have any other way of contacting them. So get them out. And the last is has email, unsubscribed, doesn't have phone. Again, it's the reverse. We only have one channel that we could theoretically communicate with them on, and we can't because they're unsubscribed. Get them all out, clean it out, pull out the weeds, right? Get rid of the junk, open up room for more real live opportunity. Because here's the other reality. If you, whether you partner with us and you're using, what we have to offer at buildwithjosh.com, or you're doing it on your own, or you're using whatever, you're using street text, you're using listens leads, whatever the case may be, some of those people are going to opt back in. And when they opt back in, they'll be subscribed. And when they subscribed before, the timing might not have been right, but now it might be. I've done lots of deals over the years where I could see that they had opted in, unsubscribed, some of them like multiple times. And these campaigns I have running now, over the last month, there's at least 5 people who have opted in on 4 or 5 different campaigns. They opted into the 2 main campaigns that I was breaking down the numbers for here, and they opted in for specific listings that I was running campaigns for, right? They're either serial opt-in curiosity seekers or whatever, looky-loos, or they're motivated, one or the other. So you're not saying goodbye forever to these folks. They'll come back if they want, right? They'll come back. And in the meantime, they won't be taking up bandwidth, okay, in one form or another. It also, this is, for some of you who don't have a large database to begin with, this might be uncomfortable because you feel like, that's like half of the 200 people in my database. But the reality is, they're not it creates a more real picture of where you're at currently. And there's nothing wrong with that. You are where you are, right? It's like looking in the mirror. Like, it is what it is. And the only thing you can do is decide to change if there's something that you want to change. Okay. All right. So that's step 1. And honestly, we're doing this is live in the middle of the week on a Wednesday. Maybe what you do between now and the end of the week is just cleaning up your database, right? Because this action plan is based on starting on Monday. It doesn't really matter. You can start any day, right? Best time to start is now with anything, right? But moving forward, here was my action plan for James on Monday. Okay. And actually, this is perfect because this is what I mentioned with sending the homeowners to the iList dashboard. Okay. Now, if you don't have iList, you can get a free trial at growwithjosh.com/iList, growwithjosh.com/iList, or for now, just skip this one. Okay. Don't find a reason not to do stuff. Find ways to do it. Okay. Find workarounds. Do something. And here's like all kinds of ideas. Let's say you have a list. Maybe if you do this, you select email, subscribe to email, and has property address, and you have 11 of them. Like you could manually send them an email that says, hey, it looks like Zillow says your property is worth this amount. I know what I think about that number, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. That's not on here, so you might have to rewind that. But that's a good one, right? Because then it's not you saying how much their home's worth. It's, I don't know, Zillow said it. What do you think? I have my thoughts about it. What are your thoughts? Anyway, if you have iList or you want to check it out, growwithjosh.com/iList. Monday for James was choose everyone that you have an email who are subscribed to email and has a property address in kvCORE and send a iList email. And by the way, I shared this a couple of weeks ago. I put together a swipe file for those that are using iList of my emails. I have 3 different monthly emails that I use to send people to their iList dashboard. I can link that up here, or I'll include it with the replay, etc., for those that want to swipe and deploy those as well. So you send that iList email, and then after that goes out, select phone, subscribe to text, has email, subscribe to email, has property address. Okay, so it's the same bucket. We're just adding in the ones who we also have a phone number and are subscribed to text, and you send the iList bump text, which is just, hey, Lisa, I just sent you an email with the updated automated values for your property at blank address. Did you get it yet? Question mark. It's something along those lines. You're just encouraging them to go look for the email. And here's the other wonderful thing that happens with that. Every time I use that, let me not say most every time, right? Because absolutes can get you in trouble. Most every time that I send that out, I will get at least one person and sometimes several that say, I didn't get the email, I don't see it, and what do I do then? We've started a conversation. So I'll say, we sent it to this email. Is this still the best email for you? And sometimes it's not. And they'll give me their actual best email, which means we've got better data, number one. Number two, when they confirm, yes, that is my best email, I can say, I'm really sorry about this, but it probably got lost in your spam or junk folder. It happens sometimes. Could you go check there and let me know if you see it? And a lot of times that's what happened. And when they then mark it as not spam, what does that mean? It means my next emails are way more likely to end up in their actual inbox. So I'm doing several things there. I'm training people to look for my emails, and then I'm conditioning their inbox to be okay with my email. Pretty good. Then Tuesday, send this follow-up email to everyone that went to their dashboard. And this I talked about on the mastermind a few weeks ago as the step that I've added with this process that has made the biggest difference of actually converting eyeballs to that seller dashboard into actual listing appointments and listing opportunities. Okay. And that's linked up right in that document. Also on Tuesday. So that's where he's going to start his Tuesday. And it might be 1, it might be 10. The last time I did this with the homeowners in my database, I think I manually sent that email to about 65 people over the week's time. Because you get a hit the day you send it, but then you'll get more that trickle in throughout the week. Because, it's sitting in their inbox and they didn't look at it yet. And as crazy as it sounds, some consumers don't check their email that often. They're not obsessively hitting refresh like some people. I'm pot calling the kettle black. This is the other activity for James on Tuesday that I prescribed, let's say. Go and select, has phone, subscribe to text, active buyer, and then send this text message. This is a Dean Jackson special, the Dean Jackson 9-word email or text. Hey, Richard, are you still thinking about buying a home? And I would change it to spring, in parentheses, or summer here in Central PA. And the here in part, the better you can match it to whatever they opted in for in the first place, the more likely you are to get responses. So, for example, the 2 campaigns that I broke down these numbers, number 1 is new construction homes in Mechanicsburg, and number 2 is homes with land under 500,000 in Central PA. So when I do this work for myself, it would say, hey, Fernando, are you still thinking about buying a new construction home here in Mechanicsburg this spring or summer? Or are you still thinking about buying a new construction home this spring or summer here in Mechanicsburg? Or it might say, hey, James, are you still thinking about buying a home with some land this spring or summer here in Central PA? So the more you can make it congruent or match whatever it is that they offered or they requested in the first place, the more likely you are to get a reply. If you can't, you have no idea. You have no idea what they want. Just doing this generically will get you more responses than not doing it. So find some way to make it in some way relevant. And you're also going to get a bunch of people that say, I was never interested, or no. You're going to get, so actually, this is an important side note. This is an important side note. When you do this stuff that I'm outlining here, especially if you've never done this kind of stuff before, you are going to get a lot of angry people. And you need to not give a bleep about that and focus all of your energy on the few that do respond positively. Because what you focus on expands. And if you focus all your energy on getting bent out of shape at the guy that said, bleep off, I never asked for that information, who cares? Who's next? And Mike and I often talked about this. We've never done it, but we were going to put together a diary of the most ridiculous replies that we've gotten when using these strategies. And I'm telling you, we have seen and heard everything and stuff that would be incredibly offensive to some of you on here. And all you can do is laugh and move on. Delete them. It gets them out of your world, and it opens up the space for people that won't act like crazy lunatics. Okay? So understand, please, that is going to happen, and you should not care, because that person was never going to do business with you anyway. Who cares? It's not, you didn't lose that business. That business was never yours to be had. You don't want to work with crazy people. You don't want to work with crazy people. So the sooner we can get them out of our lives, the better. Don't reply. Don't engage. Nothing. Delete them. Go in and delete the contact completely. All information you have on them. I couldn't be any more clear on that. The last one in here is for Tuesday is select. It's basically this same one here, but we're selecting has email, subscribe to email, active buyer. We're going to send essentially the same message just by email. And there's a couple of different varieties that you can go with here. Wednesday. And by the way, like if this is too much, just change this from Monday to week 1, and Tuesday to week 2, and Wednesday to week 3, and Thursday you should be doing every week. Okay. But you don't have to do this all back to back. If that feels overwhelming to you, and quite honestly, if you have thousands of old dead leads, you probably should break it up over weeks. If you have hundreds, let's get it going. It's selling season. Like, you should want as many conversations as humanly possible, as fast as possible. Okay. Being overwhelmed is actually a good thing, right? What is it? Like, growth lives outside of your comfort zone, right? If you want to grow, get a little outside your comfort zone. Anyway, Wednesday, has phone, subscribe to text, prospect, new lead, buyer. So basically, any that aren't the same, it's the same filtering, just not the actives. We want the prospects or new leads. And it's the same text message, and it's the same email. Are you still thinking about or interested in buying a new construction home this spring or summer here in Mechanicsburg? Thursday, I have the deal of the week. Okay, the deal of the week. This document here is the entire system. It's the templates. It's the how to find the deal, how to craft the email, all of it. Soup to nuts. There's multiple videos on the Josh Shanley Coaching YouTube channel and replays in the Facebook group on that. That's not the point of this session here. If you're not doing this, you're losing massive opportunity if you're not doing the deal of the week. Massive opportunity. And then Friday, I put as a catch-up day, and as a bonus, you could send a text like the one, and this one I just put directly in the document here. The contacts who have looked at a listing in the last 90 days, or it could be 30 days, it could be 7 days. You can filter for whatever you want in kvCORE. And if you don't have a way to filter for that, just pick a bucket. You could send it again. If you sent the text to the actives on Tuesday, you can send another one on Friday. Okay. Again, we're shaking the trees here. We're trying to catch the low-hanging fruit, right? The analogy of shaking the trees is to shake loose the low-hanging fruit. And so we're trying to find who's in the market, who's ready to go look at houses, who's ready to get pre-approved, who's ready to think about listing or open to offers on the property. And the text script for that is morning, Richard. I've got some time tomorrow after 11 and most of Sunday. Any homes you might want to check out, let me know. Thanks. Just a simple, hey, any properties that we should check out? And the email is pretty much the same. So that's my initial week action plan for James. And listen, we could spend the rest of the day and I could share with you a bazillion other text scripts, email scripts, etc. And I'd be happy to do that, except if you don't start you got to start somewhere. You don't need to know exactly every step of the way. Just get the thing going. And if you're an action taker and you're watching this on replay and you've done all this and you shook the trees and it's a week or two later and you're like, now what should I send to them? Just know that we've got plenty more where this comes from, but you got to start somewhere. And so this is a plan that I think most of you can do in some form or fashion. And I also know that in doing this, you'll create some more opportunity than if you don't do it. Questions, comments, etc. Oh, Kathy, here. Kathy in the Facebook group, the live stream. Kathy, I'm dropping that as a comment right now. For those of you who are watching it live and want to check out, I put that in the comments. Let me see if I can pin it. I don't know if I can. Sometimes I can pin it and sometimes I can't. Oh, yeah, look at that. I can pin it. So it should be the pinned comment. If you're watching the live stream in the Facebook group, it should be the pinned comment there, whether you're watching live or after the fact. Jim says, where is a copy of the database? Oh, we are actually currently going over. Sorry, it's in there now. And Natasha dropped revive as well. Ed, thanks for the thumbs up there. All right, let's look at what do we got here. This is great. Richard, when I do math that I use to make business decisions, I don't calculate the absolute best case or the absolute worst case. I calculate the PWC, the probable worst case, like Josh did. I think that's wonderful, depending on how your brain works, right? And you could actually do all three, right? So what's the best case scenario? What's the probable worst case? What's the most likely? And then what's the absolute worst case scenario? And here's the thing. If you're okay with the absolute worst case scenario, what are you waiting for? Cut it loose, right? If the absolute worst case scenario in this, so because I have a little bit more time and because I think I'm caught up on questions, let's dive into that a little bit more. For those of you that are like, hey, Charles, I don't know. I'm not sure what I think about this. I don't know if I should invest in my business. Whatever. Let's go worst case scenario.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
I actually calculate all those, but I base my decision on the probable worst case in most cases. And one of the ways that I do that is, okay, so what if I can't get X percent commission? Maybe it's going to be X minus something or X minus something. And if it still looks profitable, even though it's not as much as one would dream about, I'm probably still going to.
Yep. So when I ran this scenario, okay, I'm going to revisit these numbers here. So the best case scenario that I had outlined was 1%, 5 transactions from $2,000 spent. So 1 out of 100, I've spent $2,000 to generate 400 leads, and it's 5 transaction sides because half of them own a home, and half of that maybe they list with me. The average price of all 5 transactions, $300,000. I would say that might be closer to probable worst case, but that's gross commission, right? So it's not actual net commission income. But let's say that's the best case scenario. We cut that in half to 20. Let's say we really struggle and we only do 0.5%. Okay. Let's say it costs us $2,000 to get $10,000 in gross commission income. That's still 5 to 1. Warren Buffett would love 5 to 1. The man is one of the most wealthy people in the world, and he got nowhere near that kind of return on investment. Nowhere near it, okay? And what's crazy is if you look at, so I love Alex Hormozi. I reference him pretty frequently on him. He's like a general business guy. Like he would laugh at these conversations. He would think this is insane that anyone would even have any reservation in not doing this. If I can turn $1 into $5, even if it takes me 90 days, what are we talking about? Like, why are we even? And that's him talking, not me, although I might agree. And I make the same mistake myself from time to time. Fernando.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
What about splitting the cost with, say, a lender or a title rep that's willing to split that cost with you?
Sure. But I just proved that you don't need to. But if you have a willing participant and someone that can help also on the conversion side, it certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah, because kvCORE gives us the ability to share the lead with, say, a lender. And we can tag team the lead and follow up with them. The issue I'm having is, okay, so it's new construction. I've got a lender. New construction and another outside lender usually don't go hand in hand very often. They don't mix, like oil and water. So I don't know what other campaign I can bring a lender in on it.
Or just don't. Again, I'm trying to be as soft and tactful as possible, but so many of us on here right now, myself included, find problems where they don't need to be found. Do homes with land in your area.
VA? A VA campaign is what I mean.
But a VA campaign, so a VA campaign for real estate, I'll just tell you that it can be hard.
Okay.
It can be hard. That's more honestly, that's more a mortgage campaign, not a real estate campaign. And there are other, what's the word I'm looking for?
Big subjects.
I mean, there are other factors at play versus doing what we know works. And if you're in an area where there's a lot of VA activity and you craft a list that is likely to cater to what the price range and so forth that they're looking in, a bunch of them will be potential VA borrowers. In other words, if there's a certain part of town or a certain city in the Vegas area where there's a lot of VA activity because of the type of home or the price range of home or both, just cater the offer to that. And then you can use the follow-up to identify who the potential VA borrowers are. Or your lender, if you do partner with a lender and you're working collaboratively, they can be the ones that ask that question. Are you or anyone else in your family eligible for VA benefits?
Sure.
That's
just a thought, man. Thanks.
Yeah, there was something in there that Fernando said that sparked a thought, but now it as quickly as it came, it left. Oh, this wasn't it actually, but it was a great question or comment in the group from Linda. Do you make actual phone calls also? And the answer is yes, sometimes. I have good intentions of doing that every single day. And those good intentions sometimes happen. And if my schedule lines up the way I hope, yes. But I would say that more often than not, that's not the case. When I make calls, the two buckets that I will call are new leads and leads that are returning to look at properties again. And the calls, and I shared this voicemail script a couple of weeks ago, but the calls are very much service oriented. It's not hard selling. It's for the new leads. So James, play along with me. Ring. Hey, is that James?
Yeah, James.
Hey, James, it's Josh. Hey, I don't want to take too much of your time, but it looks like you were checking out some new construction homes in Mechanicsburg on the site, and I just wanted to make sure you got all the info you were looking for.
Yeah, I was looking at some houses.
Okay. Are you only interested or looking in Mechanicsburg, or are you open to other areas as well?
I prefer Mechanicsburg, but Enola would be fine too.
Okay. I can add that to the search alerts that we're sending you. Do you have any thoughts or ideas, like price range wise, where you'd like to be?
Yeah, like under 400.
Okay. And are you open to townhomes or only looking for a single family?
For a single family at one level, because my mom's going to have to live with us.
Okay.
So can't get upstairs.
So James and I could do this forever. If they seem open to a conversation, I'll ask more questions. If they're standoffish, it's just to plant a seed. It's just to demonstrate to them that I'm not a commission breath salesperson. I just am trying to make sure they got the information they requested. They asked for the info. I'm just making sure they got it. If it's someone who just recently came back to the site, I will just ask what brought them back. Hey, Lisa, it's Josh. I saw you were back on the site looking at some properties, and I was just curious what brought you back. And I try to, I intentionally stutter a little bit and then end on a higher tone. Just curious, what brought you back? I'm just like genuinely being curious. And if I get their voicemail, which is also, this is a reason why I go in fits and spurts, because I get a ton of voicemails, because we all don't really, even us in this business, who should be ready, willing, and able to answer their phone and have a conversation, we all have times where we just don't want to do that. So I rely very heavily on text and email. But when I'm calling and I get a voicemail, the script that I've been using for that, until someone can give me a better one, is very simply, hey, James, it's Josh. Have a quick question for you when you have a minute. Give me a buzz or shoot me a text. That's it. Quick question. It'll only take a minute. You choose how you want to reply. And when I'm making those calls through kvCORE, which is most often, when I leave that voicemail, so if you call through the app, you can note left voicemail, and then you can choose to send a text and email as well. And that text and email bump simply say, just tried to reach you, got your voicemail, have a question for you when you have a minute. That's it. And I don't get a ton of replies, but I get more replies than any other voicemail script I've used. And usually it's, hey, Josh, it's James. What's up? And then I just say, I saw you were back on the site looking at some properties last night. What brought you back? Simple. Like just genuine curiosity and service, not sales. Genuine curiosity, service, not sales. And I'm glad Linda asked this, because I will say that when I'm making the calls, depending on the day, 1 in 5 to 1 in 10 answer. And most of the people that answer, I have usually some sort of pleasant conversation with. I should do more of those, especially now that, here's actually what happens. When I generate more leads, I get overwhelmed because then I get behind on how many I need to make. And then I'm like, oh, I'm never going to catch up. Then like when I do it and I have time this afternoon in between appointments. So what I'll probably do is look at the ones that are looking at listings, because they're probably a little bit more down the funnel or the pipeline. And I'll let the automation trigger the new leads, right, to indicate who I might send that to. Can you send video in that reply? Absolutely, Ed. Absolutely. That's a good question. And I think Ed is saying the text and email bump to the voicemail script, could you include a video? Absolutely. And I should. Here's where I need to do a better job of using video in my follow-up. But one place that I feel like I'm doing a very good job most of the time is when I get someone who is engaging, then I send them a personal video with their name flashing on the screen, and it's very personal to them. For example, one of these 160 new leads who I spoke with, I think last week, or maybe it was a week before, I don't remember exactly, but I spoke with them. We had a wonderful conversation. She told me exactly what she was looking for. Exactly. It was a pretty big geographic area, but she told me what she was looking for in a home. I was able to get her set up on a custom search alert. And by the way, you can do search alerts in kvCORE, and every one of these leads is on automated search alerts. But when they reply and engage and tell me, for example, the exchange that James and I had, that person, James, is now going directly in my MLS. So he's going into my MLS. I'm setting him up on daily, or even depending on how motivated they seemed, it could be the ASAP alerts. That's the way Bright does it anyway. I can set them up on daily, weekly, or as soon as possible, meaning like as soon as a new listing that fits this criteria is entered in the MLS, they get notified. I will put them in there, and then I review that every morning to see who's looking at properties. And so Charlene, talked to her a week or two ago, and I noticed that she's been looking at properties the last couple of days. So I emailed her. And even though I've had a conversation, I haven't yet sent her a personal video message. So I emailed her this morning and said, hey, we've got some time this weekend. Are there any properties that you'd like to check out? And she reminded me of something that I need to do a better job of also, was that she favorited 3 of them in the MLS. And I was like, oh, okay. So I pulled up the 3 that she favorited. I sent her a personal video message with her name flashing on the screen. I just quickly reviewed the 3. I see the 3 that you were checking out, blah, blah, blah. The one was coming soon and not available till this weekend. And I just said, what's your availability this weekend? Maybe we can go out and check some of them out. The more you can use video, the better. I think the lowest hanging fruit for most of you is personal video replies when someone engages, because here's what that does in my experience is it decreases the likelihood of them to shop for an agent, right? Because they feel like they've had a personal, like they're having, like you personally connected with them, and they're less likely to then quote unquote interview another agent, especially, or you got to make sure that you don't drop the ball, right? So if you're promising them something or whatever, like you make good on that, obviously. But beyond that, you're decreasing the likelihood that you lose them if or when they get to the right timing. Other questions?
Yeah. Were you saying you put them on an MLS just because kvCORE's a little slow or doesn't have as many options, or what's the reason?
So my reasoning is the deliverability through my MLS seems to be better. I'm not saying, I think kvCORE's deliverability now with context of other platforms is better than I used to think it was. And also, when you do a better job of some of the things in that action plan, and when you send out emails that are text only, that are engagement based, and you also bake in ways to get them to go and find your emails and so forth, it all helps. But number one, there's way more filtering options in the MLS. And I like having that separate. I don't know, like kvCORE is for leads, and then my MLS is for clients. So when we've had that conversation, I'm treating or acting like you're a client unless otherwise. So when we have that interaction, I'm thinking that you're a client and it's only a matter of time. So then I'm putting them, now they'll still get a market report. If they're a homeowner, they'll still get some of the stuff through kvCORE. But those property alerts specifically, that's my operating procedure. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's just, it also is diversity and deliverability too. If some people accidentally unsubscribe or something could happen on kvCORE, you're ensuring that they're still getting those messages from you and they're still getting properties that at least fit the criteria that they mentioned to you at that time.
Cool.
Other questions? And we're coming up on the top of the hour. Go ahead.
Yeah. Josh, in your area, when you say home with land, how big is the land that you're targeting?
I'll give you my answer, but I'll first say it's really up to you, right? You get to choose what that is. I select an acre or more. That's personally what I select. Now, you might do 5 acres or more. You might do 3 acres or more. If you're in a really densely populated area, home with land might be a half an acre. Could even be a third of an acre. It's up for interpretation. But me personally, my Central PA homes with land list is what people are opting in for. They're opting in for homes with land under 500K. And so those are homes with an acre or more under 500,000. Great question. And honestly, I don't think there's a perfect way to do it. I literally look at the area and then I play with the filtering to see what inventory is. And I want to find where there's at least some inventory so that if somebody's requesting a list, it's not like 2. Like it's ideally double digits of inventory available of whatever it is they're asking for. All right. We're at the top of the hour. I got an appointment, a pre-listing appointment that I have to head out for here shortly. I will get the recording edited and live on the Josh Shanley Coaching YouTube channel. It'll be available tomorrow morning if you're here in the Zoom room live. You can watch the replay immediately after in the Wake Up Real Estate Facebook group if you're in there and you just can't wait till tomorrow. I'll get the resources shared with the replay as well. And if you want to explore and get more information about how we can basically let us be your easy button for filling your pipeline with the leads so you could just focus on the follow-up and the conversations and the clients, check out buildwithjosh.com. James and Fernando and Richard and Larry and Julian, etc. Thank you so much for the questions and the kind words and all of that. And most importantly, please, and this genuinely, actually do the stuff in the action plan. And then come back here next week and report back, or just reach out to me personally. And if the stuff doesn't work, ask for help and we'll figure out why didn't it work? What happened? But do something, right? Get something going. Take at least one idea from that and implement ASAP. Thanks, everybody.